Hello dear students, how are you? I hope you all are hale and hearty. I welcome you today in present session and we are back with another interesting video for you all. So, before I start today's session, I have a question in my mind. I want to ask you one thing. When we meet the person for the first time, on what basis do we judge a person? Do you judge a person on the basis of the money, wealth or possession he or she has? The question is quite typical. I know many of you might not be having the same answers. We may say that we judge a person on the basis of his language, his appearance, his wealth or other materialistic possessions. But do you really think that judging a person on all such things is acceptable? For me, the answer is a big no. We should not judge a person on all such things. I think there are many more valuable things to judge a person or to accept a person. Now, all my talk revolves around our today's lesson. Yes, the lesson that I'm going to take up today. The name of the chapter is The 100 Dresses Part 1 and it has been taken from your book First Flight of Grade 10. The chapter is written by the famous American author Eleanor Estes. She is well known for her writings for the children. Some of her famous writings are The Ginger Pie, The Moffats and The 100 Dresses. To her credit, she has won various literary prizes as well. The story that I am going to take up today is based on the writer's personal experiences. In this story, we'll come across a girl named Wanda Petronsky. She is a Polish girl, means an immigrant from Poland, and she has shifted to America. And how her new American friends, means her classmates, treat her is all about there in the story. So, without much ado, let's begin today's chapter, The 100 Dresses Part 1. The story I'm going to share with you, as I've already told, is a sensitive account of how a poor young girl is being judged by her classmates. Wanda Petronsky is a young Polish girl who goes to school with other American children in an American town. And these children see Wanda as different in many ways. To know more about it, let's understand this story. Before discussing the story, I would like to share a few facts about the Polish immigrants. The Polish American community in the United States. The first Polish American immigrants arrived in America in 1608, but the largest wave of Polish immigration occurred in the earlier 20th century when more than 1 million Poles migrated to the United States. The Polish states did not exist at that time and the immigrants were identified according to the country of origin rather than to ethnicity. They were identified as Russian Poles, German Poles and Austrian Poles. One of the most notable Polish American communities is in Chicago and its suburbs. So, Chicago is sometimes called the second largest Polish city in the world, next only to Warsaw, the capital of Poland. Polish Americans were sometimes discriminated against in the United States, as were the Irish, Italians and Jews. So, the chapter that we are going to take today is based on such discrimination that was made against a girl from Poland by her American friends. So, without much ado, let's try to understand this story. Let's read the text. Today, Monday, Wanda Petronsky was not in her scene. But nobody ever, Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. Usually, Wanda sat in the seat next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks sat, the corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter, when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. Wanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all. And nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of smile, but that was all. Nobody knew exactly why Wanda sat in that seat unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. But no one really thought much about Wanda Petronsky once she sat in the corner of the room. The time when they thought about Wanda was outside of school hours, at noontime, when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3 or even more would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. Then, sometimes they waited for Wanda to have fun with her. The next day, Tuesday, Wanda was not in school either, and nobody noticed her absence again. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, who sat down front with other children who got good marks and who didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Wanda wasn't there. Peggy was the most popular girl in school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes, and her hair was curly. Maddie was her closest friend. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Wanda's absence was because Wanda had made them late to school. They had waited and waited for Wanda to have some fun with her, and she just hadn't come. They often waited for Wanda Petronsky to have fun with her. Wanda Petronsky, most of the children in room 13 didn't have names like that. They had names easy to say like Thomas, Smith or Allen. There was one boy named Bounce Willie Bounce, and people thought that was funny, but not funny in the same way that Petronsky was. Wanda didn't have any friends. She came to school alone and went home alone. She always wore a faded blue dress that didn't hang right. It was clean, but it looked as though it had never been ironed properly. She didn't have any friends, but a lot of girls talked to her. Sometimes they surrounded her in the schoolyard as she stood watching the little girls play hopscotch on the worn, hard ground. So, let's try to understand this story. The fact that Wanda was not present on Tuesday as well got unnoticed. But it was on Wednesday when Maddie and Peggy noticed her absence. It was also then when they waited before school to make fun of her, but instead ended up getting late because she did not show up. Peggy was the most famous girl who wore good and tidy clothes. She sat with the toppers of the class. No one ever got curious about why Wanda was no longer coming to school. All they cared was they couldn't make fun of her. So, dear friends, from these lines we understood that Wanda was an object of fun for everyone. And for the past 2 days, she was not there in the classroom. And others
did not care.
They just missed her because they wanted to make fun of her. Wanda was a Pole who had immigrated to America. Her few classmates thought that Wanda Petronsky was a strange name because they had simpler and easier American names except a guy named Willie Bounce, which they thought sounded funny but still lesser than Petronsky. They found her name to be long and unfamiliar. This shows that those children did not understand diversity, and whatever they did was done out of thoughtlessness. Wanda was usually seen wearing a faded blue dress that did not fit her properly. Though clean, it used to look unironed. This shows that Wanda belonged to a poor family who could not afford too many dresses. Ironically, a lot of people talked to her, but she didn't have any friends because all of them talked to her in order to make fun of her. From her tale about 100 dresses to her unfamiliar name, they found it all amusing. When she used to watch little girls play in the ground, it was at all the time other students surrounded her to mock her. With no intentions of hurting her, let's read the text. Wanda, Peggy would say in a most courteous manner as though she were talking to Miss Mason. Wanda, she would say, giving one of her friends a nudge. Tell us, how many dresses did you say you had hanging up in your closet? 100, Wanda would say. 100, exclaimed all the little girls incredulously, and the little ones would stop playing hopscotch and listen. Yeah, 100 all lined up, said Wanda. Then her thin lips drew together in silence.
What are they like? All silk, I bet, said Peggy. Yeah, all silk, all colors. Velvet too. Yeah, velvet too. 100 dresses, Wanda would repeat stolidly, all lined up in my closet. Then they would let her go. And then before she had gone very far, they couldn't help bursting into shrieks and peals of laughter. 100 dresses? Obviously. The only dress Wanda had was the blue one she wore every day. So, why did she say she had 100? What a story! How many shoes did you say you had? 60 pairs, all lined up in my closet. Cries of exaggerated politeness greeted this. All alike. Oh no, every pair is different, all colors, all lined up. Peggy, who had thought up this game, and Maddie, her inseparable friend, were always the last to leave. Finally, Wanda would move up the street, her eyes dull and her mouth closed, hitching her left shoulder every now and then in the funny way she had, finishing the walk to school alone. Peggy was not really cruel. She protected small children from bullies, and she cried for hours if she saw an animal mistreated. If anybody had said to her, "Don't you think that it is a cruel way to treat Wanda?" she would have been surprised. Cruel? Why did the girl say she had 100 dresses? Anybody could tell that that was a lie. Why did she want to lie? And she wasn't just an ordinary person, else why did she have a name like that? Anyway, they never made her cry. As for Maddie, this business of asking Wanda every day how many dresses and how many hats and how many this and that she had was bothering her. Maddie was poor herself. She usually wore somebody's hand-me-down clothes. Thank goodness she didn't live up on Boggin's height or have a funny name.
So, let's try to understand this story. Peggy, the most famous girl of the school, used to ask her about the number of dresses she's having. They made fun of her because they couldn't understand why she made up that story about 100 dresses. They did all this while being ignorant of the fact that it could hurt her. No one would believe her when she said she possessed 100 dresses all lined up in her closet. This fact was quite astonishing for everyone. Wanda would affirm their queries that she had dresses made of velvet and silk too. Sadly, after she left, they all used to laugh at her. It was hard to believe what Wanda said because the only dress she was seen wearing was blue one that was faded. No one was sure as to why she lied. Although they were teasing her, they were never rude to her. Thus, in the same manner, they continued asking her about the pair of shoes she had, to which she replied 60 pair. It was really surprising for everyone. Peggy was not the mean girl she had been portrayed as until now. She saved kids from whoever was hurting them and couldn't stand animals getting badly treated. According to her, she was not being rude to Wanda. She thought it was very weird of Wanda to lie about the number of dresses she possessed. Maddie did not like the idea of making fun of number of clothes and accessories, as she was herself poor but not as poor as Wanda. She did not live in Boggin's height and did not even have a weird name. Maddie didn't feel very comfortable teasing Wanda, and when Peggy used to ask Wanda those questions, she would silently count the marbles in her hand, pretending to play with them. One day, Maddie decides to write a note to Peggy. While writing the note to Peggy, Maddie shook at the imagination of her being a new target for Peggy and the girls. She wished Peggy stopped having fun with Wanda on her own. While thinking about Wanda, Maddie began thinking about the drawing contest in which the boys had to design motorboats and the girls had to design dresses. Peggy was the obvious winner of that competition because she was the best artist in the room. She could copy exact pictures and recognizable portraits. She was sure that Peggy would win and results were to be announced the next day, when everyone would know what's what. The day when the results were to be announced, it was raining lightly, and thus the two best friends ran quickly to school without waiting for Wanda. Generally, they used to wait for her at Oliver Street that led to Boggin's Heights, the place where Wanda lived, but they didn't wait that day. Both the friends were excited to know the results. Maddie told that she believed Peggy would win, but to their utmost surprise, when they entered the class, there were drawings all over the room. Bright and brilliant, they left everyone in awe. These were the drawings for the contest. Miss Messon, the teacher, announced the winners after everyone had settled. Amongst the boys, Jack Beggles was the winner of the motor boat design competition. She then talked about girls' submission. She mentioned that there was one such girl who had submitted 100 designs. each so beautiful that the judges felt that any out of them was worthy of the gold medal. Miss Mason very proudly announced Wanda as the winner of the competition. So friends, we learned that finally the competition which was expected to be won by Peggy was won by Wanda. Let's read these lines from the text. In the opinion of the judges, any one of the drawings is worthy of winning the prize. I am very happy to say that Wanda Petronsky is the winner of the girls' medal. Unfortunately, Wanda has been absent from the school for some days and is not here to receive the applause that is due to her. Let us hope she will be back tomorrow. Now class, you may file around the room quietly and look at her exquisite drawings. So, we learned that the teacher continued and sadly mentioned that Wanda has not been coming to the school. She instructed everyone to look at the flawless collection, to which everyone applauded and whistled. Maddie and Peggy even saw the blue dress that Wanda had talked about. It was really beautiful. Thus, now both the girls realized the truth behind Wanda's claim of possessing 100 dresses, and in hearts they were regretting for their unkind behavior. Friends, I hope you all have liked this chapter. And this chapter has also made us learn various values. The value that we should give importance to the talent and to the skills rather than giving importance to the appearance. So friends, I hope you loved today's session. The chapter we discussed dealt with various issues like the issues of social discrimination, discrimination on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of culture, language, and on the basis of appearance. We must all learn that God has created everyone equal. It is not the looks, not the ethnicity, but the talent that matters. One should be judged on the basis of his or her talent. Like the little girl Wanda, she proved herself, and the secret of 100 dresses was revealed when she won the drawing competition. So, now I would like to leave you with one question. Think and reflect. Do you think it is money that makes a person great, or is it talent? Based on the story read, you have to write your viewpoints. And also, you can take into account the experience of Wanda. So, we will meet next with the second part of this video. Till then, reflect and write, is that money that matters or talent? Till then, stay safe, stay happy, happy learning.